I love the part of the book about the visit by the Philadelphia Orchestra,
right,
and the haggling over what pieces are going to be performed, because I think it's still utterly resonant in terms of how we talk about Western imports, Western music, Western culture, Western movies in China. You know, China still lets in 20 movies a year from Hollywood. And they account for 75% of box office there. So I think there's a real fear and a realistic, a reasonable fear about whether China will be a cultural force, and in what way. In what way are the Western imports, whether they're cultural or whether they're products, polluting the cultural attainment of China? And this is a great symbol of that conversation.
Well, you have to remember also that in 1973, Madame Mao was in charge of culture, trying to be in charge of the whole country. I mean, she wanted to succeed Mao and try to set herself up to do that. And I found myself in a position where I was trying to negotiate the programs that Eugene Ormandy and the Philadelphia Orchestra were going to play. And it was dangerous. I mean, culture had torn China apart in recent years, and Madame Mao was still in charge of culture, and even the smallest issue was referred to her for a decision. So consequently, at the Foreign Ministry, we haggled endlessly over the details of the visit, negotiating music programs as if they were treaties. The Chinese, for example, rejected Strauss's Don Juan and Debussy's Afternoon of a Faun as prurient and decadent. They came back with Aaron Copland's Billy the Kid and any piece by Mozart or Schubert, both of whom they judged as politically neuter. Respighi's Pines of Rome was fine. The bottleneck at the top meant that there was no firm schedule until just before the orchestra was due to arrive in early September, and even then nothing was solid. Officials were petrified of the chairman's wife and the dire consequences of making a mistake. Maestro Ormandy, at least from a distance, could be just as imperious as Madame Mao. No, he would not play Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral, as repeatedly requested by the Chinese. He loathed the piece. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was okay, fine, so was the Seventh, but the Sixth, never. Complicating matters further, the orchestra labor union was making sure its rules were carefully followed while the orchestra was in the PRC. Well, as the story emerged, 1 hour before the orchestra arrived, I finally got contact with the head musical cadre in the government, who I'd been trying to reach for days. And he said, I have news for you. There's a strong desire from the very top that he play Beethoven's Sixth. And I'd say, hey, Ormandy hates this. And he said he wouldn't play it. And, well, he said, this is what we've been told. So the orchestra and the entourage arrived, 130 strong, exhausted but exhilarated. Ormandy, a tiny, hyper-animated man with tufts of fluffy hair, sat me next to him on the plane from Shanghai to Beijing. With trepidation, I related what the Chinese had told me. You know I hate Beethoven's Sixth, and I did not even bring the scores, he said. Talking fast and making a lot up as I went along, I explained the authorities' peculiar predilection for the Sixth in Chinese political terms. The Chinese loved program music, and the pastoral themes represented peasant life in the countryside. Theirs was a peasant revolution, and they identified the storm in the fourth movement with the struggle they had been through. The peaceful, triumphant final movement represented China under communist rule. It was clear that the request had come from Madame Mao herself. Ormandy sighed and said, if that's what they want, that's what they shall have. I am in Rome and will do as the Romans. I will forget my own rules. His only condition was that the scores be provided by the following afternoon, I almost collapsed with relief. Anyway, they got scores from Shanghai and from Beijing. There was no orchestra the size of the Philadelphia. They all had different dynamics. They all had different bowing marks. They all had different things. But the orchestra under Ormandy just played it beautifully. Madame Mao was thrilled for what that was worth.
It's a triumphant story.